What's up, and welcome back to the final Last of Us Season 2 Spoilercast. Kind of funny breakdown. Of course, I'm your host, Tim Geddes. I'm joined today by Greg Miller.
Hi, Tim.
And the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Hello, Tim.
Hello, Nick. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Excited to talk about Last of Us.
I'm very excited to talk about Last of Us. We got the finale.
And now, you excited, Greg?
I'm excited to talk about it.
There is an excitement in the air, everybody. We're having a banger day already. Had a great Games Daily. Had a fantastic Gamescast saying goodbye to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And after this, we're doing a fun little sponsor stream of Subway Surfers where the three of us are hanging out with Roger Picorni. Combination that I don't think has ever happened before.
I don't think so
work with Roger
on any show. That's kind of cool.
I've been trying to make an effort to hang out more with Blessing, and it's made my life so much better.
Yeah.
And it's also showed me a lot of holes in my life.
Yeah.
I need more stuff on my desk. I'll put it that way.
Oh, okay.
God,
I'll never forget last. Were you on the you listened to the podcast last week?
I've seen the comments from the podcast.
Yeah. At one point, where Blessing was like, "Nick's desk is so clean. I thought he quit kind of funny." That's not good.
That's the way it's always
It's
been.
not
It's
good.
always been.
I
It's
think
just
let's
like
copy today.
3 Post-it notes.
Yeah.
And chicken scratch.
Yeah. Okay.
No, okay.
It's legible.
Okay,
handwriting.
It's legible.
Oh, everyone, this is our screencast. This is our series where we break down the latest in TV, movies, and trailers. You can also get our show in review on this same podcast feed, or, of course, watch on YouTube or live on Twitch if you would like to do that instead. Right now, in review, we're doing a whole bunch of different things. This week, we are going back to Karate Kid, where we will be reviewing Karate Kid Legends, as well as a little bonus extra credit homework without a full review, just our thoughts on the Karate Kid 2010.
Did you watch it yet?
I watched it last night.
Oh my god, I watched it last night too.
I can't fucking wait to talk about this
So
later
wild,
on.
man.
Jackie Chan, baby. Oh, baby.
Really doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
A
in that
lot
movie,
of the
I'll tell
heavy
you that.
lifting. A lot of it, yes. Very long movie. But anyway, you'll get our thoughts on that.
Very long movie.
You'll get the thoughts on that later. And then Karate Kid Legends as well. If you love what we do, please get the Kind of Funny membership. You can get that on Patreon, YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. You get all our shows ad-free. You also get a daily exclusive Greg Way that today is 27 minutes about Greg having Superman fever.
We're almost there, everybody. July 11th.
July 11th. Count down the days till 7-11. Oh, thank heaven. That's what they say.
That's what they say. They do say that. Get your Keebler cookies now.
Thank you to our Patreon producers, Carl Jacobs, Omega Buster, and Delaney Twining. Today we are brought to you by Mood, but we'll tell you about that later. Let's get into our review of the finale of Season 2 of The Last of Us. Who do I want to start with? Is anyone jumping? Is anyone ready?
I'll start.
Let's start with Nicholas.
I thought the finale overall was strong. I'm glad this season's over. And I'll tell you why, because I have cooled to the Ellie story to the point where I've started to look very much forward to it switching perspective over to Abby's story. In that I forgot how many horrible decisions Ellie makes, and how by this point in the game you kind of like I don't remember if I sympathize with her still in the game, but I sure don't anymore by the end of this episode. If I were, this is one of those characters that I look at, I'm like, if I were part of your team, I would have left you behind a long time ago, because you're making some poor choices and you're doing some really heinous shit. But I think that's the whole point. And right when it picks up at the end and we kind of see where the next season is going to take us, I get very, very excited for that.
Gregory.
I think, you start, who's chomping at the bit to go off and talk about it? I'm not. And that's the thing where I'm like, it's over, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know. I'm going to have to decompress, I guess, to figure out why that's the feeling of it. But I don't have the feeling of season 1 where I was like, they fucking nailed this. They crushed this. It's not that this is bad, but I think it's probably part because this isn't a full story. Maybe that's there too. Some of the choices they made here, I appreciated in terms of like the little stuff of giving us more Jesse, giving him more information. It's an interesting choice to have Ellie open up to Dina and tell her way earlier. But then there's stuff to, Nick's point here of like, are you an Ellie fan here? Are you like going from the game and being on sticks? And again, when you're in it and you're playing a video game, it's so easy to look past how crazy and outlandish all the choices are, to get here and have it be like Ellie gets to the shore and sees a boat and sees 2 guys and raises her pistol like she's about to shoot at them from 150 yards away, then sees all these boats and goes back down. And then she's still like, I'm getting on that rowboat to go all the way over there in the pitch black darkness of the, then gets knocked out of the boat, washes up on Seraphite Island, which I feel like is a lot further down all the way over there in the pitch black, gets into a 2-second jam there, gets out, gets back in the boat and goes all the way. It's like, This is feeling a little far fetched right here, and again, it's that mashup of what we know and all these different things of the Bella Ramsey Ellie just doesn't seem to have the bloodthirsty I am out for fucking revenge that our Ellie in the video game did. So it's even more like, but would you do that here? You wouldn't stop being the water and the thing. And
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there is a limit to when you're watching an actual human being act, and you're seeing the more reality. I don't want to say that the video game doesn't create a great reality, because it absolutely does. But there's a difference in how you're experiencing when you're playing through it versus
100%.
when you're watching someone make these decisions. And after a certain point, you start thinking to yourself, why am I supporting this person's poor decision making?
Yeah.
And you get to that point where she's like, you get to a point where she kills Owen and kills not Abby, Mel, and you're like, this would be it for me personally. I think I'd be like, you know what, let's go. Let's go home after this. Actually, probably when my friend said that she was pregnant and I was putting her life in danger, I'd be like, maybe we rethink this, right? And then we get that conversation at the end where Jesse's sort of like, hey, I know you'd move heaven and earth for me. I'm like, she just proved she wouldn't. She literally just proved that she would leave Tommy behind. Tommy, her surrogate uncle/father, to go do this thing that doesn't even need to be done. And so after a certain point, after decision, and you see all the violence, and you see all that stuff, I just go to myself, I don't know that I want to be in Ellie's world anymore. I really don't. And then we switch over to Abby, and I'm like, yes, that's the world I want to be in now.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you from a top level?
It's a tough one for me, where I'm kind of with you guys in the sense that, like, it being over, I'm not like thrilled. I wish we were getting, I'm different than Nick, that I wish we were getting more right now. But I also just feel like at the end of the day, this being 7 episodes, now that we've seen all the changes they made, most of which I was in support of and still am in support of, I do feel we were kind of robbed of an extended look at Ellie's time in Seattle. I feel like the Ellie in Seattle stuff happened a little too fast, and to get to where we are in the story here, like meeting back at the theater and stuff, like I am reminded of how much I preferred the Abby story in the game, whereas the Ellie stuff was just, there was so much mystery, and it's once you know the story of this game, it's hard to go back to seeing Ellie stuff. And I think it's interesting because not too much happens with Ellie, and I think that's evidenced in the show covering the major beats and not that much happening, right? But I think that it's not until we get the context of who Owen is in Abby's thing that his death matters at all. So I feel like I understand people being a little bit let down by this, because from what people know currently, it is just kind of like, okay, she killed a couple people. Who gives a shit? Like, they killed a whole bunch of people. I feel like it kind of loses that weight. But I think the show did a good job of the Ellie not being bloodthirsty enough or whatever. I don't agree with that personally. Like, I feel like the extents to which she is throwing herself at this problem, I think they show in the show a very good version of Ellie doing that and just going way too far. And I'm with you, Nick, of like, I'm not in support of this Ellie, but I felt that way in the game too. But I feel like with the show, I'm extra not. And I feel like seeing Jesse and them walk in and dealing with the pregnancy bit more, like dealing with her not being able to save the baby and Mel like begging her to, and seeing the look on Jesse's face when he sees all that happening, I thought that stuff really, really, really hit. It's just, I think the biggest problem that I have with this season and this episode in particular is the fact that we have to wait so long for a season 3 and to get Abby's story, and then potentially even a season 4 to move on from the moment we're at the end of this potentially. And I think that while I can deal with that, I don't think the majority of people can. Sure. And I think that's going to be really to the detriment of the overall experience of the show and how people think about it and talk about it. Last of Us 2, the game, was incredibly divisive and controversial for people that were able to play through the entire story in one sitting. Breaking it up this way, I think, is going to be a real tough sell. Having said that, Caitlin Dever at the end of this nailed it. I thought that while I still feel like she should be buff and I don't like that change in the story, I think that she is so imposing. And the shot of her walking out into the arena, I'm like, the way she's acting, her final speech in the theater, I'm like, that's fucking Abby.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they crushed that a lot too. I think to your point of the bloodthirsty Ellie and her throwing at it, I think it's the idea that when we were playing it and I was like, no, don't do this, Ellie. Don't do this, Ellie. I felt like even outside of the moments of going for revenge, it weighed on her, and it felt like it was on top of her shoulders the entire time, and she wasn't the Ellie we knew from before. My counterpoint here in season 2, right, with Bella Ramsey, who I think does a great job of interpreting this character and working with what she has, is that Ellie is still very Ellie at times. Like, she's still very wisecracky. She's enjoying life, but then she remembers that she's mad or she has to go. And then, so it's just like, there's two tones there that I think in the game there was one tone and then a lot of melancholy that surrounded that. And that's for me the disconnect of I just don't buy what Bella Ramsey's been giving us, and then looking at the pitch black ocean in the middle of a fucking crazy ass thunderstorm, gigantic fucking waves getting walking. I just don't buy that she wouldn't be like, this isn't worth it. I need to go back and have it, change. They've changed so many little things. I wonder how I would have liked to have seen them massage this, I feel.
I would agree with what you're saying, but to me, the turning point was a couple episodes ago when they're in the little Seraphite forest and she ditches Jesse and Dina after like she had now reunited with the squad. I feel like that was the point of no return of just like, oh, she's gone from this. Like, she is gone. She is going to finish this mission if it means she succeeds or dies. And I think that her throwing herself into the scariest freaking ocean in the world, like, that's proof of that, if she's gone, and I feel like in the game version of it, for me, the Ellie part of the story, I wasn't really feeling and buying the like, oh man, like she's gone too far or whatever. It's a video game and I'm playing it and I really felt like I got to kill everybody because they're the bad guys. And it wasn't until we get the contextualization of the Abby side of it that you start to really, I personally, be like, oh man, like I'm seeing Ellie from a completely different perspective. Whereas playing as Ellie, it's just like this is how video games work.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of that, again, you're not in the story so long, right? There are those moments where you're traversing. There's the boat moments. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when they were trying to get away from the Seraphites, that was a lot of sneak and running around and like trying to get away from them, right? Like that was a whole level that you got to play. And so you're in there and you're scared and you're seeing that you're with that violence way more than we are with this character. Whereas we're just sort of like getting more of a skin deep look at what Ellie's going through. But I'm with Greg on this, right? Like I don't think that we've seen quite the depths of that rage that you need to in order to justify me really being bought into this journey for Ellie.
Yeah, and I just think it's overall it's a bummer that we end here because it's like it's going to be a while till we get the next season, and then you got to imagine the next season is going to be the Abby story up to a certain part, and if that is just up to where we're at, that's going to be even more frustrating for general audiences, and I think even people familiar with the game, it's just going to draw out the conversation people are having. So
we're assuming season 4 is going to be,
I don't know,
the sort of epilogue.
I don't know. I mean, because like jumping into that conversation because we're here, it's like I feel like at the very least it gets up to the theater moment, right?
Yeah, it's got to get past that.
Yeah,
I think
there's so much more Abby story than Ellie's story though. So unless they speed the shit through that, which
have they said how many seasons or episodes next season is though?
No, they said that it's probably going to be more than this. But even then, like
I feel like you get to the theater mode, you have the whole fight, and then it's the aftermath of that. I don't know if you jump straight to the farmhouse, if it is just like the video game, right? Like we're on a fucking tractor with JJ or whatever, and that's where we go. I imagine that's where we leave them.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do it, if that's how we're gonna approach season 4, which I don't know if we actually are.
Yeah, totally, potentially.
Because then, maybe season 4 is a little shorter potentially. Who knows?
Yeah,
God. But at that point, you're like, all right, well, if you're gonna do a 4-episode season 4, then just tack 4 episodes onto season 3, right?
Yeah,
I mean, potentially, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that again, I just think that's where this gets rough. Because to your point, it's Last of Us season 1. I feel like has. It's so much easier for it to be better than season 2 because it's a complete story, a complete game, and us knowing that story, it from beginning to end, it's like it is every character arc is completed. Whereas with this, it's like no one's character arc is completed at all. They're just starting, right?
It would be absolutely wild, and I know they're going to do a season 4, but it would be absolutely wild if they did one more season and they didn't do that last part of the game where it just ends with. Like the basically Dina being like, if you leave, like I'm not going to be here when you come back, right?
Oh, interesting.
And
so
then
Ellie
walks off, and that's the end of the show. That would be fucking unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, shit. I feel like
they're gonna do
some of the moments. Like,
if you want to see how it ends, play the video game.
That's Neil's perfect plan. Where he's like, I gotta get everyone here to buy more copies of it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I want to keep talking about this, but first, I want to take a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Mood. let me tell you about the online cannabis company that's revolutionizing how we deal with life's challenges. From sleepless nights to stress-filled days, Mood.com has created an entire line of functional gummies that target specific health concerns with 100% federally legal THC blends. They'll deliver them discreetly right to your doorstep, and you can get 20% off your first order at Mood.com with promo code KINDAFUNNY. I've been having a great time trying out their different gummies and am loving how each one feels. Their Sleepy Time gummies will knock you out in about 15 minutes flat. No hangovers, no grogginess. Not only does Mood stand behind everything with an industry-leading 100-day satisfaction guarantee, but as I mentioned, listeners get 20% off their first order with code KINDAFUNNY. So head to Mood.com, browse their amazing selection of functional gummies, and find the perfect gummy for whatever you are dealing with. And please remember to use promo code KINDAFUNNY at checkout to save 20% on your first order. Again, that's Mood.com, promo code KINDAFUNNY for 20% off. And we're back. I got chills with the Seattle Day One at the end.
Yeah.
I thought that hit. I expected them to just end with the theater moment and her little speech and like the cut to black. But yeah, getting a little bit of a tease. Like, I thought that was so awesome. And with G, who does not know the story, she was like, oh shit. Like, locked in, wanting more. But she's not going to get it.
Yeah, what was her reaction knowing nothing?
She fucking loved it. She fucking loves the show. And it's like, I feel like that's cool. Somebody that is not at all familiar with the real stuff and like getting into it. But I do think it is going to be a problem for her of like 2 years till the next season and then getting the refresher, and then we get this whole other side, and then who the hell knows where it all goes. Like, again, I think that there's real legitimate problems with the way this is being released because it's not doing the show favors because it's based on a game that I feel a lot of HBO watchers are have experienced and like are able to do the book reader thing of like, oh, the book's better than the movie, you know what I mean? Better than the show and all the problems, but gamers are also a lot more obnoxious than book readers when it comes to their opinions on things. So I feel like it's a tough place for them to be in. And I also don't think they're doing themselves favors with a lot of the choices that they made and changes that they made and stuff, because people want things to be one for one. Then there's another group that wants things to be completely different and not one for one at all. And I feel like this season in particular was kind of pleasing the least amount of people in those two categories.
Yeah, how are you going to do it, though? You know what I mean? How are you going to make anybody happy? I think he's sitting here and having these conversations we've had. The only change that I don't, and I could easily eat these words and you could point something I've said in the show before, but the only change I'm like, that just doesn't work for me is Ellie getting washed up on the Seraphite Island last night. For me, last night I was watching. Yeah.
So why not? Like, because I want to talk a little bit more about
that. Just is a
people
bridge.
Seem really upset about it.
I don't know anything about that. The Greg Miller perspective is I just found it all way too convenient. Way too convenient. Again, of like, I'm an idiot, so I misinterpreted. But it really felt like when Isaac and crew were getting picked, or when Isaac was picking up the crew, they were heading to what I would call north up the shore, but it's probably south. But they're heading the opposite direction of the aquarium, right? Okay, correct. So it feels like and it looked far away.
Maybe it was one of those things where where you take off SFO for whatever reason, they go the opposite way, and then they got to come this way.
It looked like they were going far in the opposite direction. So for Ellie to get in the boat, then get put into a tidal wave or just a gigantic wave, right? First off, my first thought is, oh my God, is she, even though I know she's not, but is she going to drown? That's what I'm worried about. And instead it becomes, no, she didn't drown. She washed up 300, 400 yards, if not more, away over there alongside her very conveniently placed boat, unless I'm supposed to believe that's the Seraph. It looked like the same boat. They all got washed up right over there to where she sat up, to where there was one kid who immediately found her, who immediately brought her in, who immediately put her in the news, who immediately had the explosion, who immediately just left. And it's just like, this is all way too convenient. And then she gets back on the boat and goes, and then we're into a place where it's like, it's not, but I'm like, okay, this could have been the same footage of her on the boat again, like doing it. Like, I understand the point here is her motivation to get there and how I want her to, I don't want her. But for this to make her, she needs to be bloodthirsty, but it was just like, I feel like that made that section weaker. I think her going into the fucking pitch black darkness, fighting on like the crazy storm, that was enough of, I get it. Her washing over there and the other people, just drop her. I'd be like, I mean,
Just kill her.
Exactly, right? I mean,
Why?
We
That
gotta
makes
go.
no
Like,
sense.
what am I doing? Like, is she not one of the
Arrow.
invaders we're thinking is doing
she's
whatever?
not one of us, so by definition, she's an enemy.
The
to
whole thing,
Seraphites.
that whole section just felt so
very rushed.
convenient and rushed. Yeah.
Do you think that the Seraphites though have like a Barrett or a Kevin who's just like, no, we should just keep the noose up the entire time for whenever we need it. We don't know when Nintendo's going to announce the new thing, so let's just keep the lights on, kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, I think that they're sacrificing it to their god, right? Like, I feel like they do have. Like,
I just mean like the noose was
ready.
like set up.
I mean,
you know what I
but
mean? Like, I was
I
like,
think
oh wow,
that's-
y'all just have that there all the time.
I think they do.
That's their
Yeah.
spot, man.
Yeah,
That's cool.
That's their
think,
spot, man.
I think they have multiple spots like that. I feel like that's the whole what is it? Fear her, she fears. Feel her love.
Yeah, feel her
That's
love.
all
I was
it
like,
is.
it's not
There's
fear at
fucking
all.
fear.
No,
Yeah,
no,
feel her
no.
love, like
Love,
all
yeah.
that stuff. But yeah, like to an extent, I do think like most things in the show, it was rushed to get there. The logistics of how far everything was, I didn't even think about that. Like, I was not thinking like, oh, they're going a different direction. To me, I was like, oh, the island's close to the.
If I can jump in there, right? It was the fact that to me, they've already set up how intimidating the storm is just from Isaac and the one woman from the detective show, The Outsider, talking.
Yeah. She's like,
Just,
"You're not
it's
coming
going to be a
back tonight. We're probably
superstorm,
not
whatever.
coming
I was
back
like, oh,
tonight."
okay, fuck. And then get there and to see it and be like, that is so fucking crazy. To then have it be that we also set up how far away it is. And this, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I missed how set up far away it was, but I really like story wise of this. And again, I think this is all going to be stuff that is better when we get the second half of this story and being able to see how it interweaves with the Abby story. Because I do feel like the Ellie part of the game was lacking the Seraphite stuff, and getting to that the Seraphite war shit, the island war that we get in the end of Abby's story. I wish that we got more set up for in Ellie's side. And so here, I at least appreciate that we're getting some of those touchstones to touch back to later. But I also really liked the story elements of her just trying to save a Seraphite kid. And then now a Seraphite kid is the reason that she almost died, would have died had the alarm not went off with all of that.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like there's a lot of good symbolism going on in terms of the character themes and what they're trying to get across of not just like when you seek revenge, it's all this stuff. It's the violence overall. And it's like when these kids are being taught the violence, like there's us and them and how that all comes down to The Last of Us and all of that. Like, I think that it worked. I just feel like the level of a human being being thrown through this water, it felt weird in the game too. Like, it felt like I remember playing the game during that part where you're like crossing and the waves are crashing. I'm just like, this girl is fucked. She's very, very cold.
Yeah.
You know, but it's a video game. So when you adapt it to real life, it's like you lose some of that suspension of disbelief. So I think it just gets more unbelievable to watch her in this shitty little rowboat go across this deadly ass, cold ass storm water, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the interesting problems for them in the writer's room of how much you add. It's a unique issue to run into with a video game adaptation. Okay, we're adapting something that when you're on sticks and you're the character and you're doing the thing, you're not thinking as much about it because you've already done so many crazy ass things, right? Like, I mean, think
But
about
you've also died. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You've also died multiple times.
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
go back
yeah,
and go,
yeah.
it doesn't really matter. It's
Yeah,
a different
yeah,
death that
yeah.
means something totally different in video games.
Yeah.
You touched on an interesting scene that I wanted to go back to though, right? The scene with her wanting to save the teen Seraphite. That was a moment where I really started losing touch with the character because that seemed so out of pocket for where she should have been emotionally at that point. Like, she knows she's in danger. She's not dumb. She's a soldier for all intents and purposes. She's like, no, we got to go save this guy. And Jesse's like, there's 6 of them. Where are you right now? And moments like that, like, I know that was written for a specific reason and it's supposed to come back later. And all that. But I just look at that and I'm like, man, this is not endearing this Ellie character to me, to have her act this immature in this moment and have there be absolutely no reason for why she would want to save this person.
I mean, see, my thing is, I feel like this Ellie is dumb. And I think that they show that the entire season of Dina being the one. Like, without Dina, I feel like Ellie would have died way earlier. And you don't feel that in the game. I feel like with this one, it's like Ellie is a leap before you look. I always get that backwards.
Yeah.
Leap before you look and like just run out there and figure it all out. And I think it's a lot of this little girl that grew up in this world and then learned from Joel and like saw the way that Joel handled things and either saved people or didn't save people over the course of Last of Us 1 and then the adventures in between. But I feel like with where we're at in the show, I think that scene was very in line with this version of Ellie. Do I like this version of Ellie? No, like I don't, but I didn't from the jump really. And I think that that's kind of by design. I think the Ellie that we got in season 1 was a different person. And I feel like this show did a good job of explaining why, but I understand not liking that because I don't think you're supposed to like it, but it feels like you're supposed to, you know?
Yeah, it's at odds.
Yeah.
Right. It's why are we along the, like there is a point that, or a threshold rather, for as a viewer, you're watching a character for so long and you have to ask yourself, like, am I invested in this character's journey? And by the end of the season, I can honestly say that I'm not invested in Ellie's journey anymore. And I kind of felt that with the game too, honestly. Like there was a part of the game, I remember finishing the game being like, I understand, I get why people like this. I never want this experience ever again. And I was hoping that at the end of this season, I would not feel that. And I honestly think, like, I'm glad I watched it. I think everyone should watch this. I think it's a beautifully made show. I will never watch this season ever again of Last of Us. Having said that, the second we get to Abby being like saying the line, which is "I let you live," you wasted it, and then go back to day one, I was like, I will watch season 3. I will absolutely watch this. And I think to your earlier point, I do think it was a disservice. I do think it's a disservice that we don't know Abby well by this. And I know that's how the game was broken up. I'm presuming as well. I don't remember the game that well.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it would have been like the touchstones that I had of this season, the things that kept me watching were the Jeffrey Wrights, were the Abby moments, were the wolf, was that sort of, for lack of a better term, sort of like classic Walking Dead, we have to go kill the killers, sort of like we're doing bad things, but because we're protecting our own people sort of vibe, right? And so the more of that we got, I think the better the season overall would have been. And this is just kind of where we went. I think we just spent way too much time with Ellie and the revenge kick, and I would have liked to have seen those characters fleshed out more so that by the time we did shoot, because by the time we get to the point where, you know, we see what Owen was to Abby, it's going to be 8 episodes from now. You're not going to remember the emotional impact of either of them dying at this point. And if you do, they're going to show you a flashback. Who cares? We've already seen it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I think
it happened.
Well, it's going to build up to that moment, and we're going to see them die by Ellie. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I feel like
but
that's
we've already
gonna be
seen
awesome.
it though, right? Like,
Yeah,
we
but I
already,
think
we already know it's happened. So the
it's gonna
punch
hit
by
harder.
definition is a little bit. It's going to be lesser for me because I don't have an emotional connection to Owen and Mel, right? I don't care about them because they're just two people I've seen for 20 minutes on screen, all told, right? Now,
Yeah,
granted,
you jump on now.
Yeah, now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then I feel like that is the bigger problem. Is it's like that's how it was in the game too.
Yeah.
Like you did not know these characters at all. You just killed them.
Yeah.
You saw them once in the beginning of the game, and then that's pretty much it. So I'm very interested in getting to know them more and seeing like how more impactful it's going to be able to see all these events from the other perspective. I think the biggest problem though, when I'm thinking really about the Ellie versus Abby sides of the story, Abby's just had so much more story. Like I feel like Ellie's focused so much on that, what is it, Seattle Day One, where it's like the open world part of Seattle.
Yeah.
That's some gameplay shit. You know, that is really the like go explore and find a bunch of things and like interact with things in cool, fun ways with your PlayStation controller and learn little bits of story beats of like Dina and all that stuff. But like translating that, I think, is not as easy as Last of Us 1 that was a linear story.
Yeah.
And I feel like Abby doesn't have those big open world moments. So I think it's going to just because of that, and also just because I think there's a lot more story beats to cover.
More compelling, you think?
I think it's going to be more compelling. And I think it's
agree.
going to be a lot better of a adaptation because of just the sheer story of it all. Whereas the story of Ellie's part is pretty simple. It's pretty simple to just, she goes on this bloodthirsty.
Kill
yeah,
everybody.
exactly. And it happens real fast in the show. And I don't think it feels like, now that the whole season's done, I don't think it feels that satisfying.
Yeah,
but
100%.
But I think that when we had the context of Abby's, it is going to. And I say that not just, oh man, I hope. It's like, well, I know because that's how it was in the game too. So the same feelings. I didn't even think about Owen and Mel in the game. I just killed them.
Sure. Yeah.
And it wasn't until a couple hours later I get their backstory and know.
You're like, oh,
so
I
it's
shouldn't have
like
killed
it's rough. You know what I mean?
I'm 100% with you, right? When I think about the things that I want to see more of, I want to see more of that story. So that's why I'm excited for season 3 in that regard.
Yeah. Let me see if we got any super chats. We do. Dinesta says, this Ellie just overall seems incapable of the revenge she's going after. Also, the time she's escaped death this season, it's also come down to purely luck instead of skill. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, there's no
You say
big
that?
argument.
Oh, I was sorry. I had a point that I was going to make earlier. I totally forgot. Then you started talking. Then I remembered. I think I'm much more interested. I think you talk about, is this compelling? Is Ellie's story compelling? And I don't think it necessarily was nailed by the end of this. But I'm so interested in Owen and in Mel and in Abby and in Isaac and in all these characters, I definitely want to go back to that. So I do this thing that speaks volumes for like how they're setting up the third season. Like when I see Owen, I'm like, I want to know who he is. This is cool. I want to see what their world's like. I want to see their fight with the Seraph 5, and we're going to get that.
But it's back to the thing you raised here, right? And it's also the, conundrum and quagmire that we all know from The Walking Dead, right? Of just like, okay, but for a mainstream audience, is this not having those answers and not knowing who they are and this, that, the other, and if they're even questioning like we are here, is that enough that they're going to come back for a season 3? Or are they going to be like, I didn't love season 2, so I'm not even going to tune in and like hear it's really good or something like that?
We'll see. We'll have
not
to
our
see.
problem, obviously. Just
I think HBO, the HBO mark carries a lot
I
of
agree.
weight, though.
I
and
agree
do
with
think
you.
HBO does such a good job of putting these shows in front of you and treating them like they're a premium piece of like good show. Not I don't want to say content, but like a good show that I think they'll get a majority of people back.
Yeah. To that point, it's tough because they're not going to have Joel for the next one. Like they had Joel for this. And I do think that's another reason why the story happened the way it did is we don't get Owen and Mel and them in this part of the game. We get Joel flashbacks. We get a lot more time with the birthday stuff and just like with having to deal with even the patio and all that. So I feel like that taking up quote unquote screen time of this season, the progressing the story forward stuff is tough because looking at it, it's like, I feel like most people don't really like the main story of season 2, but they really liked the flashback stuff of season 2
great
that
stuff.
just took up a lot of the time. So it's tough there. Whereas I feel like the Abby stuff, it's not flashbacks, it's all new story. And so I feel like it's going to be a lot cleaner actually to get there. But to Greg's point, like, will people show up? I don't know. I think they will. I
do
definitely
too.
think
I
that
do
they
too.
will. And
I think they should too.
especially you're talking about Gia, who I'm hypothesizing about.
yeah,
I think for me and in my household, having Danielle's watched this whole thing with me, she enjoyed it. She's very excited. She likes Caitlin Dever and she loves Jeffrey Wright, and so I think putting those two characters on screen for me, I know that they might not be they're not Hollywood A-listers. They're certainly not going to appear in Fantastic Four's First Steps. Maybe they do. Who knows? That'd be amazing. But for me, these are actors, and I'm very, very excited to watch them share screen time together in season 3, and I think Danielle is as well.
yeah.
So.
Calvin Perez says, now that we're done, I think Isaac as the alternate point of view this season was a mistake. It took up real estate for Ellie when he could have been pushed to the next season. Honestly, I kind of agree there. Like, I do think that was one of the...
We don't even know about him yet in the game, or
yeah.
know him yet in the game.
I do think that was a misstep because I feel that we should have focused more on Ellie's story in Seattle, whereas like the WLF stuff, that is a next season thing. That is Ellie's or Abby's story. And I get that it only makes sense to me because they also introduced the Seraphites more hardcore here than they did. And I do think that introducing Isaac and going back into his stuff as a setup in this season is going to allow, hopefully, for more clever interactions in the next season. And I think that is something that I'm hopeful for because the game doesn't really interact story to story as much as I expected it to. Right?
Yeah.
I would disagree with that comment, though. I think Isaac's an incredibly compelling character, and I think the compelling characters from the story maybe don't necessarily translate over. And this is exactly what we're talking about, right? I wanted more of him. I wanted more of that dynamic. I wanted more of what's going on in the thing. I want way more of that story and way less of Ellie getting rained on and having to sacrifice all of her friends to go on this revenge kick that we all know she shouldn't be on.
I think their point, though, is their hope would be sacrificing Isaac would get you more of Ellie and make you care more.
I don't
about
want
Ellie.
more.
I know you don't. I know you don't.
And there's not more there. There's no more meat on that bone. Let's be perfectly honest, right? Like it's just
she's mad because Joel's dead. Now she's gonna go kill these people.
how hard. I mean, seven
Nothing will stop
episodes
her.
later, she's that one friend that you're just like, the party's over. We can't drink anymore. We got to go home at a certain point.
I really like Jeffrey Wright in this as well, but I think obviously they put it in there for backbone, right? Because if Ellie washes up on Seraphite Island, there's this explosion. They don't like. There's just so much of not knowing. Let alone also, I think introducing Jeffrey Wright. To your point, he may not be Mr. Fantastic. He's just Commissioner Gordon. It does give you an avenue for promotion of season 3 of. Well, he's here. And you liked him a lot, and you saw what you did here. We gave you a bunch of interesting tidbits, right? Even the end here in this episode, right, where he's talking to his general or whatever, and she's just any word from Abby, and they go into this whole thing. I was like, why is he asking about Abby, right? He's talking about our crew. I'm like, oh, okay. They're doing this so we, as a viewer, would be set up to like, wait, why isn't Abby with it? Why isn't Abby doing the assault or whatever you're planning?
Yeah. CJ Splitson says season 2 HBO slump, House of the Dragon, WW, and this Westworld.
Westworld. Oh, Westworld season 2 was so bad.
House of the Dragon season 2 rocked. What are you talking about?
Well, I never watched season 2 of House of the Dragon, but Westworld
didn't?
season 2 was
Yeah, you did. Pretty
season
sure?
2.
I think so.
Didn't that just come out?
I mean, at least a year ago. But not 2
I've
years.
I only remember
Huh.
seeing season 1. Yeah, because if we didn't review it, I probably didn't
Gotcha.
make it a point to watch it. But yeah, Westworld season 1 was one of the best seasons of like sci-fi television
Amazing.
HBO's ever freaking done. And then
Yeah.
season 2, you're like, huh. They really dropped the ball on that one. And then season 3 was weird because like Aaron Paul got involved and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But whatever.
And also, personally, I would not call this a slump at all. I do not think it's as good as
I think
season
we're
1.
criticizing it and saying
Yeah.
it's not as good as season 1, but I still enjoyed this ride. I was looking forward to the show, everything. I'm looking forward to everything every week, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to next season for sure.
I think here's where I'm at with this. I would bet that if season 2 of Last of Us was 20 episodes and it just covered the entirety of the game, I think I'd be in love with it. Absolutely.
Mhm.
I just think that it being split up this way, there's no way this could have lived up to season 1. I think that's actually impossible just because of how incomplete part 1 of a multi-part story is.
Sure.
It's tough though because this is an act 2, right? So like, you look at trilogies and the act 2 is either the strongest or the weakest act in most of them, right? And hopefully this is the weakest act, and the third act of this whole thing is going to really, be a banger of some
Yeah.
sort. But
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
I almost
know.
don't even see it that way. Like, I look at Last of Us 2 as a 3-act thing that is like a complete.
I look at it. I look
sequel
at
to part
season 1 as act 1, season 2, or this as the middle part of it. By the time they get to the theater, that's 3, and then 4 is the epilogue where she has to go down and do
Yeah.
what she's got to do, in my opinion. But I also don't, again, remember the game very, very poorly. So I don't remember the experience completely at all.
Birdman13 says Ellie's story in part 2 was always lacking plot and character development. Abby's stories was more of a journey story with more plot and character change. It was the much more interesting story, in my opinion. As I've already said a couple times, I completely agree with you. That's all we got there. Any final thoughts, Greg?
I enjoyed the ride, like I said. I think I'm being critical of this last episode and maybe Ellie's journey, but yeah, I enjoyed the ride for sure. It did what it's supposed to. Season 1 was nearly perfect, if not perfect, right? So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this next one. And again, all the questions we had even about this one of how are you going to do it? Are you going to break it up? What does a season 3 and possibly season 4 look like?
Yeah.
Yep.
Nick?
Same for me. Enjoyed it. It's a beautifully made show. It's full of great moments. Everyone should watch it if you're on the fence. And I'm excited for the next season. I'm excited to be on that ride with Abby.
Yeah.
Are you excited about July 11th?
So excited that HBO is doing the thing where you can watch the trailer. Have you seen that?
No.
If you go to HBO, like if you go on your app on TV or whatever, they have the trailer for you.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
watch the trailer. And I was like, D, go watch this. And man, I'll tell you what, when your wife's not into something, it really is a web like
The
it.
fucking
She goes,
worst.
this is what she said. She watched the whole thing. She goes, is that dog CG? I was like, well, yeah, but like, he's got a cute ear. She's like, yeah, I'll pass on that one. Just walked out of the room. It's like, damn it. Very
Yeah,
excited. though.
my final thoughts on this are I really love this show. I think that the game does a lot of things better. I think the show does some things better. I'm really bummed at how it's being split up because I think it's really not going to do a service to the overall experience for the game. But can't wait for season 3. Let us know in the comments below what you think of The Last of Us on HBO. After this, we're about to do our Subway Surfer stream. This is the 3 of us with Roger Picorni. It's about to be a blast. But until next time, I love you all. Goodbye.